Well, a heatwave is forecast for Victoria and New South Wales this weekend, with temps up to 12 degrees above the average, while central Queensland is bracing for flash flooding. For more, I'm joined by Angus Hines, Senior Meteorologist at the Bureau of Meteorology. Good morning to you, Angus. Now, multiple states are looking to sweat through the weekend. Where exactly are the temps going to be rising?
Good morning. Yes, absolutely. Some pretty scorching temperatures heading towards southeastern Australia in the next few days. In fact, it started yesterday in South Australia in particular, about 36 degrees in Adelaide, the warmest day there since March, but parts of the state were into the low 40s. Today we see that heat spread out primarily across Victoria. Hot day across the state. As you say, 10 to 12 degrees above the normal for this time of year. That puts Melbourne at about 34 degrees today, 36 tomorrow. Large parts of Victoria, mid to upper 30s today. Also, as we get into the weekend, it'll be warm across Tasmania. High 20s for many down there. Not quite as hot, but still some pretty warm temperatures. And the heat will move into large parts of New South Wales as well. Mid to upper 30s across much of the state there. So it's pretty widespread heat. When it comes to heat waves, much of the southeast has what we call low intensity heat wave, which is sort of the lowest threshold required to call it a heat wave. But we've also got some areas reaching severe heat wave, and that's where we get our severe heat wave warnings being issued. So currently that includes East Gippsland in Victoria, as well as the south coast and Snowy Mountains in southern New South Wales. It's that very far southeastern corner of the country.
Any fire danger associated with these temperatures?
Yeah, look, when you get hot days, and particularly when you get hot, dry days, it always does raise the fire danger. So we've got some widespread high fire danger across the southeast, with a few areas looking at extreme fire danger where we get a bit of wind kicking in as well. So at the moment, that's looking to be parts of Western South Australia and parts of northwestern Victoria, seeing those extreme fire dangers and associated fire weather warnings.
And when do you expect a reprieve in the conditions?
So we'll see a cooler change move into the far west of South Australia late today and then move across South Australia tomorrow. Now, it's not a frigid cold change that brings chilly weather, but it's enough to just take those top few degrees off the temperature and bring us back to around about average. It will also come in with a thick band of cloud and some fairly extensive rainfall as well. So tomorrow, look for the cooler and wet weather to move through South Australia. Then Sunday, we look for that cooler and wetter weather to move through Victoria and Tasmania. At the moment, though, it does look like it slows down before really crossing New South Wales, so we could see that heat continue for parts of New South Wales through until perhaps Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, so that's the heatwave side of things. If we can move to central Queensland, areas there are bracing for flooding.
Yeah, there's a few things going on in Queensland in regards to heavy rain and flooding. So there are some flood warnings in place across central and southern parts of the state, but those are mostly in response to some very heavy thunderstorms that we had over the past couple of days around parts of the Darling Downs, around parts of the Maranoa-Warrego region as well. We've got a flood warning for the Warrego River, which is one of the main rivers through central parts of the state there. We've got some further flood warnings for interior parts as well, even though the rainfall forecast for that region has now eased right back. So there might not be that much further rainfall there, but the flood waters, the river levels are still running high based on the rain from the past few days. It's a bit of a different story though if we look at the Queensland coast. We don't have the flood warnings in play there yet, but there has been some fairly significant rain overnight last night into this morning for a couple of areas. Firstly, the very, very far south of the Queensland coast, around the Gold Coast, Coolangatta area, just got persistent wet weather all through the night last night, and it accumulated up to about 150 millimetres in Coolangatta, which is a significant dose of rain and could lead to some flood impacts. I think I've already seen some photos on social media floating around of some localised flooding around the Gold Coast, Coolangatta region. And then up in the North Tropical Coast, which has been dry for the last little while, they've seen the wet weather really return there yesterday and overnight last night. Now that's a part of the country that does routinely get some fairly significant falls, so it takes a lot of rain in that region to elicit a flood response.
Okay, and just finally, Angus, you're speaking of this wet weather, the potential of flooding and extreme heat. Why are we seeing these sorts of this weather right now?
So the pattern we're seeing across eastern and southeastern Australia is sort of contributing to both the Queensland rain and the heat in the south, and it's really to do with where the wind is coming from and where it's moving to. And that's because we've got a big high pressure area to the east of Tasmania and Victoria, and what that does is it steers the wind. It takes the air from the Coral Sea, really warm, really humid, tropical air, brings it onto Queensland. That's where we get all the rainfall from. That same air then continues to move in a southward trajectory down towards the south south coast. It's got no rain left in it. We've squeezed all the moisture out over Queensland, but we still get the hot conditions by the time it reaches those southern areas, and that's also why we're seeing those temperatures spike across southeastern Australia.
OK, Angus Hines, always great to speak with you. Angus Hines, Senior Meteorologist at the Bureau of Meteorology.
Thank you.